Welcome to segment 2 of the Family Proclamation Project. Again, I'm Brooke McFadden. We'll close the last 4 chapters of my study. So, we had left off, we were discussing people getting older in their marriages, and we were talking about the goal behind this whole video is kind of debunking those myths of the main concerns that we have in marriage, or how they're going to work or how they're not. And I'm just offering some live communicative opportunities that I've gotten from close friends and my own personal life about marriage. So it's kind of that inside lens in, so you can see and hear firsthand. So I'm hopping into chapter 23, which was probably my favorite chapter of studying, and the most intimate and emotional for me. Chapter 23, we're talking about the crucibles and the healing of illness, loss, death, and bereavement. Thomas S. Monson has said that prayer is the provider of spiritual strength, that it is the passport to peace. We know those passports get us into a lot of places that otherwise we wouldn't be able to attend. And that there's a process, there's a lengthy waiting period to get that passport sent to you. But when it comes and that happens, that ability, that permission to access those areas that are otherwise closed off is awesome. And I believe that prayer offers that in that suffering and that bereavement and that loss and those crucibles. It really is the passport to access that. I was talking to a dear friend who's just recently lost her 9-year-old to a horrific cancer, and that battle was brutal. She was just talking about just the sense of void, just that loss, missing him, missing seeing him and laughing with him, smelling his toys, just things that were just so intimate and personal, and the loss that is there. And just that question of, like, does this go away, And I myself, I've lost my father, and so I feel like that's a different experience than losing a child. And so I, again, reached out online and I was asking other people their personal life experience to see if maybe somebody else had sage wisdom that I didn't. There was a mom actually who had responded, and a recent friend, and that kind of connection that her and I had made, and she was halfway through her pregnancy and lost that baby. And what was interesting for me was watching her reflection in this opportunity where she's now at this place where she's producing gratitude for that experience. She was just saying thank you to this baby. She said, thank you for giving me the excitement of becoming a parent. Thank you for bringing your dad and I closer. Thank you for teaching me how to process my emotions more clearly and confidently. Thank you for showing me the power and support of my community. Thank you for giving me hope and peace for a future. Thank you for being the first. Thank you for making me a mom. And I just thought that was really important piece for mom and dad. And if you're not holding that child in your hands, it doesn't mean that it has stripped you of the language of mother. It's actually a father who was talking, and he was talking about his wife and supporting her through the loss of her father. And the dialogue he had there is that he said, I didn't dictate when she was allowed to be sad or for how long. I didn't dictate when she needed comfort. I didn't have to explain away her grief or tell her why she was sad. He was grateful to be there in that situation and to bring her comfort. Another mother was talking about losing her 8-year-old. She'd learned that moving on and moving forward were two completely separate experiences, that you could move on, but that perhaps might mean leaving behind, right? But moving forward means that maybe you can carry something with you. You could advance and bring those memories forward. As you step forward, she involves him every day, all the time, and that he gets to be a part of all of those things that she is a part of. And she is reminded that he continues to teach her and to mold her and to help her. I found that really beautiful. I know coming from myself, in a very religious place, and believing in eternal families, and having that truth, and believing that this isn't it. It's not all done here. And that knowledge has permitted loss. It's not that it loses its sting, but it's that my hope is so enlarged that sting doesn't nearly hit as hard, right? There's a barrier there, and there's something very profound and powerful. Another mom was talking about feeling a sense of relief when the child passed. This was a 19-day old. She has several children previous to this birth, but the amount of effort and constant addressing the need and caring for the sick child, it was so grueling. And any of us, especially as moms, you're wiped, let alone the emotional breakdown and everything that's happening chemically for you. It was so overwhelming. And then all the responsibilities left of wife and mother and to these other children. And she just was acknowledging in total authenticity. Like, I remember feeling relieved. And she said, and then this awful tidal wave of shame and guilt for feeling relieved hit. And I was so grateful she put language to those feelings, because there was other people that then responded, oh my gosh, I felt that too. Thank you for saying something. And so she offered a voice of reason and something that felt so confusing for other women and men. She said, I knew that it would be tough. And she knew that she had this option to either fall in this awful, deep pitted despair, or to try to reach for just glimmers of light and hope, to try to find a way to live again through this pain and suffering. And she said that every day, as she pushed through, it didn't mean that she didn't sob. It didn't mean that it wasn't hard when she had to put all of her baby's things away, because we don't keep them out in that nursery. It didn't mean any of that, but it did affect her. And it meant little things. It meant just continually making food for her other children. It meant figuring out how to stay close to her spouse and not completely push him out as she was suffering, and realize that he was suffering too. And so they found ways to try to come together and connect in that. So can you lose life while you're married and find hope? Yes. Yes, you can. You can. There's effort, and there's so much work behind it, but it's possible. And there's hope. Oh my gosh, there's so much hope and resources and people. The biggest thing is, please share how you feel. Please talk about those feelings. Chapter 17 is supporting families across generations. So we've got in-laws, we've got grandmas and grandpas, and we got uncles and aunts, right? We've got all these other people, and like, how do you stay all interconnected? My family didn't do Christmas. My husband's family did Christmas like on heroin. It was like, Christmas. And I remember coming into that, I felt kind of intimidated. And then I was like, this is a blast. And then I was like, okay, I can't keep up with this pace. And I was having children, and it was like, when do we wake up and do like our Christmas and then go do their Christmas? And like, how do we wrap all this up? And then also being with my family on another holiday and saving up for that, and how it affects your life financially, and all of this dialogue that's like, I don't know, we didn't really necessarily talk about that while we're dating. You don't even know to bring it up. So, word to the wise, if you're watching this and you are not married yet, like, bring this business up. You need to talk about holidays. You need to figure out what that is. But I'd have to say, sage wisdom in my own life is, there's a time and a season. Like, I look back to some of those Christmases, and they were fun. And Thanksgivings and getting together. Oh my gosh. And then COVID hits. And all of a sudden you're feeling like limited in what you can and can't do. And all of a sudden it's like, I would give nothing more than to feel like I was just going to go have this huge shindig that was going to happen this year, and just feeling, bummed that it's not. I'm trying to, there we go. It was hitting my face. Anyways, so there was a couple of things that I read, but one that really impacted me was, here is what happens to families that integrate relationships with the grandparents, their aunts and the uncles, and their children. It talks about behaviors such as sexual promiscuity, drug abuse, and delinquency, fewer symptoms of depression, that grandparents' involvement is also related to that pro-social ability that is happening with the child, the ability to talk about their feelings, the ability to connect with different things that they love. Grandparents have so many different experiences. Maybe their grandparents, my kid's grandparents, she's ridden a horse. I don't ride horses. I grew up in the concrete jungle. She didn't, right? My husband grew up on a mountain, and I had, a minuscule backyard, or I was living in an apartment. We take these life experiences and they affect the growth of our kids. And I just think it's so important that we engage them. The positive consequences of that grandparent involvement are especially true among even single parents, right? That those parents being involved are game changers in the accessibility of the children. Um, so grateful that I had any kind of involvement with my grandparents. I didn't have much. We moved away when I was young, and I didn't see them much, but I was so grateful for the little amount that I did have. So you know, there was different parents that talked about just being grateful that they had a space to offer their children if they needed to move back in. We had the opposite experience as the kids. Our in-laws moved in with us, and we were grateful to have an opportunity to house them while they were trying to look for their own place to retire. It's such a continuous relationship in how we can give and we take and we give and we take. Um, Chapter 19, the sanctification and cooperation. This one was beautiful, talking about working together and then working with kids and in their decision making. It's really hard when you feel like a child is making wrong decisions. How do you support them? What do you do? Drawing on the powers of heaven is a powerful resource available to couples in improving their marriage and their child's relationship. A lot of people made comments of like, you just need to love them. Do not judge it, just love them, right? My sister had made the comment. She was like, you can counsel and you can cajole and you can suggest, but as soon as you dictate, the ears shut off. Love is absolutely key. It's not your job to clip the wings, but maybe you could decide how big the cage is, right? So maybe we set some parameters of where they're allowed to fly, but not completely shut them off. Some other moms were talking about trying to set aside anger, kind of that reactive mode when we know somebody's stepping into something where you're like, this is not brilliant. Mayday, mayday, right? We're going down, folks. Trying to shut off that instantness of that reaction and try to open the ears to hear better, right? Um, Really a big, heavy discussion about, I loved this. I had a good friend. She was talking about a conference talk by Russell M. Nelson, the prophet. Um, he was discussing, I'll just share this little story. He said, when our daughter was about 4 years old, I came home from all of my duties at the hospital. My wife was exhausted, not sure why. She only had 9 kids underfoot. He's kind of being sarcastic. And that 4-year-old, he was like, I'll help her get ready for bed. And then it was like, change those clothes and hang them up and put on your pajamas. And he's kind of barking those orders, which I totally have done. Um, Brush your teeth, say your prayers. Suddenly, this little girl kind of cocked her head to the side and she's like, Daddy, do you own me? Right? Like, what's going on here? And he said she really taught me an important lesson that day. He was using the coercive methods for this sweet child, right? Kind of that dictatorship. But he said to rule children by force is a technique no better than even Satan's own efforts. It's not how the Savior does it. You don't own your children. Our parental privilege is to love them, to lead them, and then to let them go. I found that so powerful. And in chapter 20, this is the closing. It discusses repentance and forgiveness in family. I can just share personally that, I had an experience where my dad, I had to separate from that relationship, and he died probably about 9 months after that. A lot of addiction and other things going there. It was really unhealthy. And I remember feeling guilty after he passed away, but I have found more peace knowing that he's connected with me through heaven. And I believe that there's hope in that. So thank you for participating and watching.